With Nick Cage, yeah, he's eating the eggs and shit. But when he has that dead rat in his pocket, or he like goes back to find it because he bangs it against the car and throws it like, ah! And he goes back and he rips that thing open and he's about to eat and he looks over and there's just this old man in sunglasses with his dog. What are you looking at? And he's like about to eat it and he stuffs it back in his pocket. I was like, this guy's gone. Like, there's no way there could be more movie. He's not a person anymore. He's out of his fucking mind. Greetings, friends. Welcome back to the Messed Up Movies Podcast, the podcast celebrating movies and filmmakers that embrace the insane, the outrageous, the unhinged, the off-kilter, and the all-around kind of messed up fun you can't take your eyes off of. What's up, everybody? Here for another New Movie Monday, joined by co-host, friend, super producer, director of Mr. Cream Jeans Hidey Hole, Heath Benfield.
I'm just here for the waves.
I live in the waves. That's my church. There's just something about hearing Nick Cage say anything that I'm just in on. We're here today to talk about the new Nick Cage joint, The Surfer. Just incredible. If you haven't seen it, we're going to spoil the shit out of it. So pause this, come back after you go to the theater and see this. We want new original ideas. We have to go see them when they're available. Before we do that, go to misfitparade.com to keep track of Mr. Cream Jeans Hidey Hole. Lots of awesome stuff on the verge. Starting June, we have a lot of stuff coming at you fast. So misfitparade.com, Misfit Parade YouTube to see video versions of the pods, clips, kind of content we do over there. We're on all the socials, 5-star ratings and reviews wherever you find pods. And the Messed Up Movies Podcast Patreon. Get more good stuff. Make your voice heard so you can hear us talk about the movies and TV shows you want us to talk about. That's the best way to support the show. Okay.
June is a very special month. That's your
June
birthday month.
is my birthday month, so that'd be a great present to me. I would appreciate that.
And if you are a Patreon member, you get to hear the special podcast episodes that we do specifically gift Griffey for his birthday. That's
right. We've got some incredible ones. June is going to be an awesome month. So yeah, we got Black Mirror miniseries, Tales from the Crypt miniseries, lots of fun stuff. Please go over there. Please, God, help us. Help us. Like Nick Cage, we find ourselves on the rocky shoals of adulthood. So let's start here. The Surfer, directed by Lorcan Finnegan. Here's the synopsis, which in no way, shape, or form will do any justice to this film. Don't live here, don't surf here. A man returns to the idyllic beach of his childhood to surf with his son. When he is humiliated by a group of locals, the man is drawn into a conflict that keeps rising and pushes him to his breaking point, not his point break. I walked out of the theater in love with this movie. I am so in on late stage Cage. I think this is the most interesting he's ever been in his career.
Oh, it's so special.
I think I dig this more than kind of 90s big Cage, right? Like, I love Con Air. I love The Rock. Face Off is kind of the peak memification of like the comedy version of Nick Cage. Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas. Great run. There's something about seeing a movie star of this caliber, or who was at that caliber, pick really interesting movies, help spread the love. He's helping give voice to this new generation of filmmakers that might go on to make a lot of really interesting stuff, who get to do that because of Cage. So I love where that is. This movie had a moment in the film where I was like, oh no, all the fucking wheels are coming off. And this is going to be something I fucking hate. I thought they saved it by the end.
Was that moment 30 seconds in? Because that's where it was for me.
Dude, anytime you just show me Nick Cage, I'm in for at least 40 minutes. You've got me for a while. It has to be so bad. I watched Ghost of the Badland or whatever that was. What? It's like some weird like Japanese cowboy post-apocalypse zombies and Nick Cage is just in there. It's one of the worst films I've ever sat through. But I was like, well, Nick Cage is in it. It's not all bad. But again, this is one of those movies, I think it has such an energy. It has so much style. It becomes this really interesting soup that I found ultra captivating. And even when I thought the movie was going to break, they really pulled it back for me. And by the end of the film, I think this is, if Sinners had not come out, this is my favorite movie of the year so far.
I would say it's definitely in my top 3.
Yeah.
Maybe Black Bag.
I didn't see Black Bag.
Probably number 1 for me.
Yeah, I think after Presence, I needed a moment from Soderbergh.
Yeah. Agreed. No, Soderbergh back to doing great things with Black Bag. This movie was definitely it had to earn it for me. I wasn't expecting. I walked out of the theater really surprised how much I loved it. And it's only grown in esteem for me since then, which is, I don't know, been like the weekend. But it went to a level of thoughtfulness that I didn't think was in it going into the movie. If you see the trailer, it's sort of setting you up for this. You've seen this. It'll
be surfers. Mandy with surfers is what I was expecting.
Yeah, or kind of like, what was that Michael Caine movie? Harry Brown.
Yes.
One of those types
Straw
of
Dogs, right? Yeah, like something like that, yeah.
Yeah, where it's the older guy who has to get tough with the punks that are...
There was definitely a moment where I thought, are we just going to reveal that Nick Cage went and became like a world-class like super soldier?
Yeah,
that's and now he's back to just serve? And no, he's just a normal-ass dude.
I wasn't prepared for how... psychological it is, how surreal it gets in spots.
That's the element that threw me for a loop. Is this movie has so much more art house aesthetic than I was prepared for, right? Like at least 25 times in the movie it does these ultra close-ups of just insects, right? Creating this kind of like wildlife soundscape, right? There's a moment where a character disappears and you're like, is this just all like a dream? I don't know. But honestly, I think by the end it kind of captures this unraveling madness of when you're so fucking locked in on a goal. Because the big thing you'll leave the movie with is, why does he not just drive out of that parking lot? Like 10 times. It's like, you're a fucking rich guy. Like, you're going to buy $1 million plus house. You're a rich guy. Go back to your awesome penthouse and do the deals there. Like, just fucking leave. But he stays, and he keeps staying. And there is this mix of, this is where he thinks all the problems will be solved, right? And it'll make up for the problems of the past. This is where he just got humiliated. And the whole thing of the movie is, if you're not from here, you don't surf here. And he feels like he has to prove that he belongs here. And so I think that's the thing you got to give the movie. Every movie has something you got to give. Why does he not drive away? He has 10 times to drive away before it really starts cooking. And at a certain point, he can't anymore. He's kind of trapped. I thought the movie did a really good job of making it quasi-believable that this guy just gets pulled into this morass. Because everyone you know who's not Nick Cage leaves.
That's a great point. I mean, does this movie work without Nick Cage?
No, fuck no. Yeah. Let me be clear. I think this is a very well-made movie, a pretty good script. If you don't have someone, and that is the Nick Cage superpower, is he just, while probably guilty of a lot of overacting in his career, right? As he calls it, he has a kabuki style.
Yeah,
right?
Kabuki's a great
way
to
it's
say
this big visual kind of representation.
It's like, I was watching a YouTube video last night that really did a deep dive.
Yeah.
Actually, great. I think it's called Nick Cage Can't Stop.
Yeah.
Really good digest of his whole career and what he goes for and his ups and downs and why he does a million movies that half of us have never seen. But
he had that rough like tax problem phase where he was doing wild ass straight to DVD movies.
Yeah, and he's still, he's just kind of kept that going to a degree, and we're for the better for it. I don't think we get the surfer without that. Anyway, in his younger years, when he's doing things like, what is it, Kiss of the Vampire, and going big, and like the Lynch movie, Wild at Heart, he describes it as almost like an impressionistic painter.
Yeah.
There are different styles of art styles for acting as well. So it doesn't always have to be naturalistic. It can be over the top,
it's
but
something
as long as it's honest.
Yes, and I think it's one of those things that actors talk about a lot that really kind of bug me sometimes, is this really focus on naturalism, right? And I get the acting on stage and film is very different, right? It's more in your face, so you can be subtler. There is a level of me as an audience member, I've never, maybe 3-4 times ever really bought into the reality of a movie. A movie, on its very nature, I think, puts these boundaries between, like, believable realities. So I think an actor like Cage, who is just undeniably captivating, like a fucking train wreck or whatever, like, you're like, it might sometimes not work, or you'll see something you don't want. Is that a bloody teddy bear and there's no kid? Like, whatever. I cannot stop watching. And I think that's the right move for most movies, right? Like, this is not...
At least most genre movies.
Yeah, this is not the kind of movie that needs... There's almost nothing in this movie that strikes me as realistic, right? Like, there's not a lot of realism.
From the
play
jump.
play to the fun of it, right?
Yeah, and I think that's how the movie kept surprising me, because when it starts, the dialogue is a little, I don't know, stilted. Not stilted, just, I don't... like back of the napkin almost. And, you know, the acting's a little, I guess, Cage-esque from everyone. And you're kind of wondering, like, okay, are we just doing a cheap B movie?
Yeah.
And we're putting it in theaters because that's sort of in vogue now. We're just putting everything in theaters.
Yeah.
And then, no, it really gets cinematic. It really earns.
Yeah, and
placement.
it's a fucking bummer because we were the only two people in our theater.
We were the only two.
And I told you, I was like, I am nostalgic, right? Like, there's this big audience or big argument among cinephiles, right? Is what is the actual value of the movie experience, right? Is the theater model, as Ted Sarandos thinks, an outdated form of thinking? And everyone immediately is dunking on him. And I was like, he's not wrong. The market has decided that for vast swaths of people who will watch a movie, that's not how they want to do it. You have to be realistic about that.
Sure.
What makes me sad is that this is a movie that it felt like in our younger years, right? The 90s, the 2000s, when we were going to the theater all the time. This is one of those movies that would come out of nowhere and people would be like, holy shit, that's fucking great. Like, that's way better than I thought. And there were these movies that would pop up and we'd all be like, oh shit, I didn't see a trailer for that. I didn't know it was coming, but like I got to the theater and I just picked whatever.
Yeah.
I am sad that a movie like this feels like it is destined to be lost.
Well, we'll see.
I hope not. Again, I hope not. I think this movie's outstanding.
I mean, how many people are going to listen to this podcast and suddenly the box office numbers are just
skyrocket? We could bring in tens of
gonna
listeners. They stand to make at least one grocery cart worth of money off of this pot alone, I'm sure. But yeah, I do think there is, to me, this is the kind of movie that is the best argument for what I think we've lost when theaters don't matter as much anymore. Because this movie, I felt like there was value in just sitting there and being in it and not second screening it.
Yeah, I don't know that everybody watches a movie second screening, though. The thing that I love, and we should probably get into some of the beats of the movie, that I think will give this a life beyond its initial release, is there is always something pulling you into it. Mm-hmm. It never stops. It never slows down. It keeps getting worse and worse and worse for this guy.
Is one of those, like, give obstacles, right?
Yeah.
Like, obstacle. Like, one of those, I remember telling someone once, one of the most horrified I ever was watching a movie was Meet the Parents.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, Greg, stop, leave, and try again next weekend. Like, this, stop, please, God. Because it's so uncomfortable.
It's almost self-destructive.
Right, and that's what this movie is, prime, like, self-destruction. Like, dude, fucking stop. Just walk to, like, the gas station nearby. Yeah. Call your kid. Call someone. Yeah. Like, fucking stop.
Know when you're beat. Yeah.
It is. It's sweaty, and that's where the movie scared me, right? Is when we get to the parking lot, and it's this kind of amazing conceit, right? Like, it really does all take place in this parking lot and, like, the surrounding small beach area. I was a little worried that because it was getting so out of control that we were going to play some kind of where it goes too far at the end or it's not real. So what did you make of, as the movie was unfurling, this kind of addition of these flashbacks and the kind of surreal concept? Because the real thing they do in the middle is we start to think, because the homeless guy says, I'm leaving this to you. Mm-hmm. And it felt like the movie was going to do
I thought it was doing a magical...
He's the homeless guy the whole time.
I thought it was like the Santa Claus, basically.
Yes. Yeah. And it fucking terrified me, because there was a point he got in the dude's car, and there was a picture of this kid who had died, this surfer kid that the old man was trying to find. He's like, he killed my dog. Like, my kid was with him, and now he's gone. And all the photos were scratched out of the older guy.
Right.
And I was like, they're setting us up that this has been like, Nick Cage has been a homeless guy forever.
That's exactly what I thought the movie was doing.
I was fucking terrified. So there's nothing I hate more than movies that do that. And I'm glad they pulled out. But what did you think? This kind of surrealism, the flashbacks to the father dead in the surf.
Yeah.
How do you think, like a directing level, that it was a tool that helped keep you engaged in the movie? Because it felt like one of those that could have turned on us really bad.
I think it depends on how savvy of a viewer you are.
Yeah.
And if you're going to stick with it, because, yeah, I was cynical about that too. I felt like you did. I've seen this play out before. If you watch a lot of movies, you get that way. You start to see the beats and you think, okay. But I think the director is smart enough to know that that's the audience that's probably going to see this. People who really love movies are going to see
this. This is not one that random people are probably walking into in a theater. Like, you have to want to be a part of this movie.
And so I think he was steering us down a path, which we took the bait on, and then it went the way it was intended to go. So I think it's a really great misdirection.
Yeah, because it starts with, right, him and his son are going to surf, and he's kind of preaching this, like, he does this whole, like, that was my best dad speech that's using surfing as, like, a symbolism for life, right? And these guys, like, bulldog him, right? And he's like, he's gonna make you, eat your teeth in front of your child. Just get out of here. And he's like, I'm from Australia. And you're like, what? Like, that was just one of the weirdest things. Nick Cage is like, I grew up in Australia. And it's like, and then he went to California. I was like, wait, what the fuck?
So it's stuff like that I think we were kind of chuckling.
Yeah,
when this would come up, because it's like, okay, this is Nick Cage movie doing Nick Cage.
That's the value of Nick Cage, is we just hear that and laugh, and we're like, awesome, I'm in. I don't care where he came from or why he talks like that. Cool. But it starts off as just two dads. One of them gets embarrassed in front of his son, right? And then we start adding on, he's losing his family. She's getting married. She's presumably close to Nicolas Cage's age and is pregnant again. His
ex-wife.
Yeah, like, that was just how old is this fucking lady? Yeah, I was like, weird. Okay, whatever. And he's like, oh, it's a shotgun wedding. And you're like, okay. I feel like my Nick Cage is blending in with my impression of Connor from Love on the Spectrum. If you know, you know. Because that guy's the greatest. But there's this moment where you're like, this is going to be a classic Western setup.
Yeah.
The two dads got to meet on the beach, right? The beach is going to take the place of, like, the town, Main Street.
The other dad being the Julian McMahon character, right?
Yes. So he's this kind of guy who wears, like, a towel hoodie and is doing this, like, alpha male horse shit, right? About, like, we made men weak and we got to, fight against everything.
I love this character.
He's so good.
I love this performance.
Yeah, he's incredible.
And he's the perfect foil for this whole journey. Mm-hmm. We can get into all that. Anyway, go on with your point, because I just have a lot to say about that. It felt
like it was going to this, like, classic Western, black hat, white hat are going to duel in the streets.
Right.
I was unprepared for how abstract the movie got. Mm-hmm. And while it was jarring for a minute, I think the more I've sat with this film, what a fucking brilliant choice. Because, again, you can't... If we just know it's leading to, like, a fisticuffs on the beach, it's really hard to keep that movie going.
And I have to be honest. That was the movie that I anticipated, that I expected, and that I hoped for. And that's why I chose this one to do on the podcast, because I really thought we were going to get into some, like, Death Wish territory.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that kind of movie, but it was way better.
Way better. And again, I think that like, once I got over the, what the fuck is happening? Like, why is this the movie I'm in? In some of that, like, kind of Lord of the Flies, like, they're chasing him at night and he's sleeping in a bush. Like, he's looking around for water to drink in toilets. And there's just so many little, like, machination moments, right? Where he's like, charge my phone. And he's like, give me the watch. My dad gave me the watch. And then the guy's like, this is my watch. My dad. Ah! Right? And he's just losing his shit. I think if it's just to punch him up, that you're going to lose me in that section.
He starts off, he's a man of great pride.
Yes.
He's trying to buy the house that his father or grandfather owned. And he's trying to get back. His life hasn't gone the way he wanted it to. Mm-hmm. And he's trying to claw his way back to some sort of equilibrium.
Yeah.
And to prove to his son that he was meant for something better than where he's ended up. And then we go on this whole journey of this, like, Job-like journey of picking Nick Cage apart piece by piece, down to, I think the last thing taken from him is his wedding ring. Yeah. Which he needed to get rid of anyway. She's already...
Yeah, bitch, she gone.
She's already remarried.
She's got a bun in the oven. Yeah. There's no chance. But again, he seems like one of those, because we get this hint that his father killed himself on the surf. He found him. From there, they went to California or whatever, and then he was a surf journalist for a while, whatever. But he feels like a guy who was so focused on getting back to that moment before he lost his dad, in that house, in that one place, that he let his life go to shambles, right? He was probably not a good husband. He was working so hard to get the money to buy this expensive house that he lost her, right? And his kid's like torn between them, and he doesn't seem super sure of his dad. And he keeps thinking this house will fix it. Even as if I showed up to a beach with my kids and I'm like, teenagers are just going to try to beat me up every time I come to the beach and ask for like proof of address or whatever. I was like, this sucks. I would leave, right? Like, but he can't. Because again, it's not just about this house will fix now. He's trying to fix this past thing. And I think the mechanics of how he keeps losing everything, Job's a great parallel to that, right? Where it's such a captivating net that the movie traps you in. That you're kind of squirming around looking for like, where's the oxygen in this movie? And you really don't get any.
And not only is it, I think the Coen brothers do this really well.
Yes.
Where how much can we pile on top of our protagonist?
Yeah.
And to the point where it all has to come to a head. So we have that happening. And then you're also doing like this flight plan style. Is what he's seeing real?
Yeah.
Because everyone else is seeing it differently. Mm-hmm. And now he can't even trust what his eyes seem to see. So a perfect example is he ends up staying overnight in his car because he has to wait for a phone call or something. I can't remember the details, but he ends up there to make sure that he can close this deal. He's got to get a phone call on time, blah, 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 blah.
He has to be at the payphone at 9 a.m. the next day when his guy's going to call.
That's one of the days. He's there for several days.
Yeah, he's there for a while.
But they steal these punks on the beach. They steal his surfboard.
Right.
And so he calls the cops. An officer
That's why he's there,
up.
because he wants the officer to come to get his surfboard back after he gets in the fight on the beach. Yeah.
And so the officer tells him, you stay up here in the parking lot. I'm going to go down to the beach where this basically cult has set up shop. And
like the loser version of guys that liked Point Break too much.
Exactly.
Like that's what it is.
It is. And we learn that Julian McMahon's character, he is this trust fund dude that Nick Cage knew from his childhood.
And he knew him.
Yeah. They knew each other. But his family basically owns that whole little town or whatever it is. So he's been allowed to more or less take over this corner of the beach. Mm-hmm. And that's where you get the don't live here, don't surf here.
Yeah.
And they own it. It's their his little fiefdom.
Yeah, there's a scene where they beat the dog shit out of that French couple.
Yeah.
And you're like, no one files police reports.
Right.
Like, they just keep getting away with this, which tells you how much influence he must have on this like suburb.
But they do a really smart thing where they're giving you that information, but at the same time, you're seeing it through Nick Cage's eyes, and the cop just goes along with what
he's like palling around with them.
He's palling around with them, and then Nick Cage finally has enough. He goes down to confront the situation, and he says, "That's my surfboard. They had it hanging up right there." And Julian McMahon's like, "This surfboard? This has always been here."
Yeah, it's been here for like 7 years, dude. What are you talking about?
Oh, you're fucking around with me. You know better. And Nick Cage is trying to convince the cop, and the cop is like, I've seen that surfboard here. This probably been 7 years.
Yeah.
So you don't know how much they're fucking with him, how much of a conspiracy this is against him to drive him out, or if we start as the audience to wonder, can we trust Nick Cage's perception?
Yeah,
is he going crazy?
And they do a good job at the start of building these like pressures that we can imagine are breaking him down, right? He's lost his wife, his kid's on the fence. He gets a call from his work that's like, you better be here tomorrow because this account's fucked up. He's like, I'll handle it. And you're like, so he might be losing his job. He might lose the house. Like, he's like, it might not ever come back on the market in his lifetime. So there is enough pressure. Like, is this just a corporate dude who is breaking? Who's at the end and he's like, I lost everything for this one dream and I'm not going to get it. So you start getting in this, it could literally be just a complete fucking flight of fancy. The whole
movie.
There
was a great shot that tipped me into that thinking. It's like, I can't remember at what point it is, whatever transgression that happens against him. And there's just this wild camera work that happens, and it gets, I love the editing in this movie too. Sharp. And it's just, it sets you up for, okay, Nick Cage is going Nick Cage crazy. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like a zoom in, and he's doing this like twitchy kind of facial expression.
But he's like standing in the bush.
Where he's like looking out at the waves or something, or out at the cult members, and his lips curling, and he starts to twitch, and he's really starting to
the one that killed me, where I was like, this is the Nick Cage, this is why you want him in your movie for the trailer, is when he's in the car holding the thing and he's just so red and his teeth are like out, and he's just watching all of them like get the picnic to go to the beach, and he's just like just in the car like bright red. He hasn't had water in days, and I was like, that shot is worth so much. Like, you just can't get that with anyone else.
But he balances it so well, because there are times where you really feel for him.
Oh, like they smear dog shit on the water fountain. Then they chain a dog to it, so there's no water.
But the
coffee guy's fucking with him.
Yeah. There's the situational aspect, but he brings so much pathos to it, like a lot of vulnerability.
That's something I struggle with Cage at this point. Is like, because I think Pig is the standout of this run, right? Mm-hmm. And that one, he truly like brought me all the way in. And weirdly enough, that's his most subdued performance of probably his whole career, right? Mm-hmm. That's the one where he kind of disarmed us that it's not going to be Cage Rage, right? It was coming off of like Mandy and Willy's Wonderland and shit. And then he's just sitting there. And when he quietly dresses that other chef down about how all of his ideas on cooking are bullshit, and you're like, holy fuck, Cage has got this thing still. There is something about movies like The Surfer that utilize Cage in the kind of meme-ified way. It is hard for me to ever see him as anything other than like just a really funny, weird actor. Like I do find it so hard to sink in with him as a character, right? And I think it's just the curse of being him. Or like Tom Cruise. Has Tom Cruise done a character in like since Magnolia? He's Tom Cruise. Like, you know, the actors that are so huge and so beloved that they hit that level.
Cage is a character actor who became a movie star.
Right. Now I think he's such a better actor than people give him credit for. And I think of that like group of actors in the 90s that were like the megastars, I always thought he was infinitely more interesting, right? It's like the grunge thing, right? Like Nirvana was the biggest, but like Smashing Pumpkins was the most interesting to me. Whatever.
It is crazy he became a leading man.
That's what I'm saying, because he always had like weird hair going on. He's just like a strange, go back and just watch Face Off. Like the choices he makes in that movie, you're like, someone had to be sitting around with like a checkbook being like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what is this? And it's just magic. And most actors could not get away with that. And he does. But again, I think
Travolta does.
Kind of. In that movie, I think Travolta does a very admirable job of trying to match what Cage is doing. But there is something about him that makes it hard for me to ever watch a movie and actually like relate to a character.
I have to push back on that. So you brought up Pig. This is why I think Nicolas Cage is maybe the bravest actor we have. I can't really think of another actor who's braver. He will just let the film completely debase him.
Yes.
I mean, he gets the fucking shit just taken out of him this whole movie. Pig, he's walking around with a huge shiner, like bloated out shiner over his face. He looks terrible in that movie. He's not afraid to glam down, I guess.
Also just like the silliness of like, how do you get someone of the caliber to Nick Cage to be in Willy's Wonderland?
Yeah.
Like he'll do
but
whatever.
He's not afraid. I mean, can you imagine Tom Cruise having bird shit on him? Having,
He's too fast for birds to shit on him. That's the thing. And he's too short. Yeah. No, but I think that is a good point though, right? Because like there's even this level of like a lot of people are like, they're brave art. Like Joaquin Phoenix jumps to mind. And I was like, but Joaquin Phoenix is in the kind of movies that create this protective artist bubble.
Correct.
Where you're supposed to be the weird, difficult to work with guy, right? Like when Joaquin Phoenix is making the fake documentary about him having a meltdown, I guess that's brave because some of us thought maybe it was real and he was going on actual talk shows and like it was kind of Kaufman-esque.
Yeah, it's Kaufman-esque.
But again, I think Joaquin Phoenix is the kind of actor that we have assigned. He's this elite artist, right?
Well,
and so like he can get away with those kind of degrading moments. Cage was not that. Like he was like the guy leading mega action movies.
Yeah.
Right? And he's doing movies now that like Joaquin Phoenix would never be in half of the shit Nick Cage is in now. They're beneath him. And I think that is I concede the point, right? Is that it does feel like we won't get a filmography like his ever again.
No.
Like, does Chalamet do this when he's 55?
I mean, how many actors will end up doing over 200 movies?
That's what I'm saying. He's like Takashi Miike or whatever, right? Just like pumping out work. And again, I get that. Like, I do think there's something about the just not having the ego and just being in stuff that is cool, even if it makes you look like an asshole.
But I do think it's a little unfair that he's characterized as this guy who just goes crazy.
Yeah.
Because he can do really
I'm telling you, when he does like, when he unleashes like the not, and again, I think it's because the kind of projects he gets cast in, they want that bizarre like if you're going to make a movie so weird, you got to have an actor that can be the anchor for that. Mm-hmm. And he is the ultimate at that to me. Like anything you put him in, I immediately just accept the realities of that movie when I should not.
Here's the movie that I would point people to. And this is, I can't believe I'm bringing this movie up on the Messed Up Movies podcast. Have you ever seen It Could Happen to You?
No.
It's a romantic comedy. It's him and...
Wait, is that where he wins the
lottery
money and like pays the waitress the $1 million tip? Yes, I have seen that.
He is so soft and quiet and vulnerable and sincere. Yeah. And he can do that.
The Family Man, right? He had a run like that. The Weatherman was kind of like that.
I love The Weatherman. Yeah, that's another one where he just...
Even Adaptation, right? Like, he's kind of this weird, like, sweaty nerd. It's closer to, like, a Cage performance.
Adaptation has a lot going on in it. But still, that's a movie that had a pedigree. You have Spike Jonze. You have Charlie Kaufman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to put on weight and do the receding hairline and be... unmovie star-like. And I think that's one of his best performances, honestly.
Yeah.
But he'll also do that in the movies that have no pedigree, that no one is even talking about.
Again, The Surfer is one of those movies. Like, there's no, like, big pedigree in this. I think Lorcan Finnegan is making a name for himself, right, in the community, and people are starting to find... But it's not the same. No. It's not like when you're, like, heading big-ass studio movies. Mm-hmm. And I think there's just something so wonderful about that. And I wish more actors were not so digested through the processes and the systems of like, this has to be good for the brand and this and that. It feels like Nicolas Cage's brand is just chaos. And he can just pop up in anything, and that's awesome, right?
How did you feel by the time we got to the reveal? After he's been through so much hell.
Yeah.
Were you feeling for him, or were you... to the point where you just wanted it resolved?
There was a stretch of the movie where you start worrying that it's all a fantasy. It's also just so fucking hard to watch, right? He's got like glass in his feet. That scene when he's like about to eat the rat and the guy with his dog's looking at him, he's like, what are you looking at? And you're just like, Jesus Christ, this thing's about to tip hard and fast, right?
He becomes a monster. He's starting to turn
he is. He's like something walking out of the bush and everyone's like, ah! Yeah. And it's fucking crazy. And you're like, oh my God, I can't take much more of this, right? He falls asleep. There's a snake there. These people are chasing him down with fucking torches and shit. His car's gone. He's just haggard.
He's
like,
barefoot.
Even though like when he gets the coffee and he like gives the watch up and the guy just turns around, he's like, coffee's for locals. He's like, ah! And he's kind of sitting there with it dripping off his face. It's perfect. But you're like, I'm over it. Like, I'm ready to move on. And this is when they drop in the lady that took the pictures of him. Mm-hmm. And I was like, this is going to be the scene that decides it. Because he's like, do you remember me?
Well, because everyone else that he's been interacting with, increasingly...
His realtor was like, I don't know this guy.
Regarding him, and more overtly, over the course of the film, as it starts to unfold, as a crazy homeless guy.
Yeah.
Like the old man that he...
A lot more talk of like, it keeps the trash out, right? There is kind of this beautiful, I remember, it's the most affecting book I've ever read, and I can't remember what it's called. But I was working as a producer's assistant, and I had to read this book, so we were thinking about getting on and producing it as a movie. And it was the dual stories of this Canadian doctor and this homeless guy, right? At the end, you find out the Canadian doctor performed an abortion for a rich guy's daughter, and then they scapegoated him for it, and like he became the homeless guy. So the two stories at the end merge, and this is the homeless guy. That story, though, the way it describes homelessness of like, when they're sitting there, they're like, we don't even want your money as much as we want you to look at us and see us as an actual human being, right? That the human animal is one that thrives on community interaction. And he goes, and when you're homeless, people, without trying to acknowledge you, will like move around you like it's a fish and you're a shark, right? And they just try to pretend you don't exist. And this movie captures that kind of like just crushing, terrifying reality of what that must be like. Being in this perfect spot on planet Earth, surrounded by wealth, and you are just this fucking stain, this gum on the bottom of the desk. And the movie captures that so well.
So well.
And when he sees that photographer again, the lady who helped him jump his car, and he's like, you remember me? And she's like, yeah, what happened to you, dude? And she shows him the picture. And when you're looking at the picture, like, he looks like a crazy homeless guy standing in front of a car he vandalized with kook.
Yeah.
I thought that's when they were going to reveal.
That's what I thought.
Sir, you've always been homeless.
Yeah.
And when they didn't, and she's like, yeah, you had a nice car, whatever. I was like, okay. And I took a deep breath and I was like, now I'm ready to end it. We get this incredible scene where he just starts fucking beating the shit out of those kids, and he grabs the locals only sign and he beats the fuck out of that guy. He's like, eat the rat.
That's the best.
Because he has it in his pocket. He fucking
he
crams
kept the dead rat in his pocket.
and he crams it in the guy's face. He's drowning. I was like, yes. I want your opinion, because I thought the hard reset was another moment I was worried. Because they're like, this was all a test. You're one of us now. You're going to get the house. You're going to do this. Here's lotions and IVs and whatever. And they have this like fantasy. I thought, gun to my head, if they said, if you choose wrong, we're going to shoot you right now. I was like, this movie's over. It's going to end leaving us not knowing what we just saw.
Yeah.
And was he a real person or is this a fantasy?
Yeah.
I was unprepared for the addendum of like another 25 to 30 minutes. It felt
just
like.
kept going. Yeah.
Because I was like, oh my God, we're resetting for another fucking movie where now he's got the fucking towel hoodie and he's like, let's do drugs.
So this is a good point to talk about a lot of other things that are going on in this film with that group. So it's, I wish I could remember Julian McMahon's character's name. Anyway, when's the last time you saw Julian McMahon? Dr. Doom? Fantastic Four?
Yeah, maybe.
He was so good in Nip Tuck. I love movies at this level where they can get a great actor like that you just forgot about.
Yeah.
And just let him, unleash him against Nick Cage. It was just magic. I thought he was perfectly cast. He's such a handsome bastard.
And he's even like 10 times more handsome than he was at his prime.
Right.
Like he somehow got like better cheekbones.
Yeah.
And like the gray was like perfect with the, yeah. This is not just going to turn into how beautiful he is, but it's undeniable. We're not speaking out of school.
But he's playing this guru style character who is more or less a cult leader and a shaman to the younger, to the youths of the area that need guidance, the men. He's like a Jordan Peterson style. And it does tap into, without being overly satirical or trying to make some sort of political commentary, it does tap into this moment of the manosphere that we're
in a really weirdly terrifying moment in the manosphere where it's like people who with such bravado and conviction say the dumbest fucking things. Right? Like there was a moment where we just had this guy who was clearly on steroids, the Liver King. Do you remember this guy?
No.
And he's just this jacked, and he's like, I live a caveman lifestyle. And he's like, I eat raw liver, and that's why I'm jacked. And everyone's like, you're on steroids. He's like, no, I'm not. And so people were eating like raw fucking organs and shit. And then it came out, of course, he's like fucking juiced to his gills.
That's the
But
thing.
like dude, I watched a thing the other day because now that we live in the Midwest and I'm middle-aged, I get these a lot. Like they pop up in my feed. I watched one the other day where these fucking bros that look exactly like they'd be in this surf cult. And he's like, people shouldn't drink water. And the guy's like, really? And he's like, yeah, water's a solvent. What happens when you put things in water? And the guy was like, they float? And he goes, no, they dissolve. And he's like, water's a solvent, dude. It's big water. And when you drink water, that's what it's doing inside of you. And I read comments underneath, and it was just all these dudes like in the gym being like, I've been saying it for years. And I was like, we have never had more amplified stupidity that is being cheered on. And I think the thing this movie does is it doesn't make fun of them right away. But what it does do is like, there is a real fear when you see a group of people that, whether right or wrong, are so committed and so believe in the mission of what they're saying. Because when he does his speeches, he doesn't say anything. But we're watching these like people commit violent assaults and robberies, and like looks like they're going to kill Nick Cage multiple times because they just have blind belief.
It's basically Fight Club. He's doing the Tyler Durden thing.
Yeah.
Where he's appealing to these men who feel like they've been displaced by society, or their masculinity has been threatened by a new world order, and they have to get back to and what they do a lot in this. I'd love to watch it again because I think it is an extremely layered, really heady movie underneath a lot of this, a lot outside of the Nicolas Cage stuff, where everything that there's one speech where Julian McMahon is talking about, we get it out of our systems here on the beach so we don't go back and treat our women.
Well, the lady says that when Nick Cage is like, isn't that awful? And she's like, they're blowing off steam. And he's like, they're bullies. And she's like, better here than going home and giving their wife the 1-2, right? Or whatever she says, like.
And that's this philosophy that that men are
like, innately, I guess? Like, what are we talking
aggressive creatures. And prone to, letting the worst parts of our nature overtake us. And the only way to live peacefully in the society is to rage on the beach with each other. And really it's just an excuse to get drunk and harass people.
I will meet them halfway. I agree with them halfway. Like, getting drunk on the beach once a week sounds exactly like what my life could use to fix it. But yeah, it's like, we've seen it. Like, it took over like Zuckerberg and Musk. They were going to have an MMA fight, right? And it's like these nerds that like have to prove they're corporate domineers. And it's just this, there's this thought that like, if we can just do jujitsu and shit, like we can choke out people who get in our way in the boardroom. It's very much Mel Gibson's What Women Want, but taking the wrong lessons, right?
I mean, it's a lot of Fight Club, and the Fight Club stuff is based off of the Übermensch, the Nietzsche idea, where you have to. I think they even in this movie referenced that story about the guy who wanted inside the club, and he was forced to sleep on outside of the door for 3 nights without any kind of food, water, or shelter, or something like that, to prove his worth.
Yeah, that's what the whole movie becomes. That's what they're doing with Nick Cage.
That's what the whole movie becomes, and that's what the twist happens, where it is revealed that they were testing him the entire time, and so that he proves that he is worthy in the way that the old man doesn't.
Right. And in a way, it's, if you prove you're willing to go through all this, the assumption becoming you'll do any number of even worse things once you're in. Because we also get this subplot that he's banging like a 15-year-old, maybe. And that he killed the old man's son, who was her boyfriend, because he didn't want to share. And he had his followers do it. So then we start revealing this like teeth beyond. Like, I think most people would watch it, and it's like, all right, you get your ass beat, whatever, you walk away, you get punched. Now we're like in murders, right? Like, we're doing actual like horrifying crimes.
Well, there's this great scene before the reveal happens where Julian McMahon confronts Nick Cage, and now Nick Cage is holed up in the old man who stole his shoes and stole his jacket and left, and is in his car.
I thought that was another giveaway. That it was not real.
Correct.
Right? So I was worried about that too.
And he taunts him, you should eat. He's having a picnic.
He's got this awesome burger. He's giving love that, giving him a beer. He's like, you're dehydrated, drink beer. It's like, all right, that's Australia, I guess.
And Nick Cage still has enough pride to not take any of it, even though he hasn't probably had anything to eat.
Oh, dude, when he drinks that fucking brown water.
But you start to wonder, does Julian McMahon's character have the right point here? Is Nick Cage just being too prideful?
It is weird. It's the Groucho Marx thing, right? Like, I don't want to be a part of any club that'll have me. And so I think the movie, two truths can be equally true.
I'm not.
Nick Cage is not doing the right things in this movie.
But I'm not advocating for Julian McMahon's point of view either. But it is really smart because you are wearing down with Cage, and you start to wonder, is this guy right?
Well, because then the audience members, every one of us has to be screaming, fucking leave. Walk away. Get anywhere else and then make a move, right? Like, this is the classic, like, no retreat, no surrender. And it's like, sometimes you got to go back and get more bullets, dude. Like, you fucking lost. You're done. You need to get a bandage and a fucking bullet.
But really what the cult is doing is it's creating a power structure.
Yeah.
It's a societal power structure, and it's no different than what Nick Cage was climbing his entire life to get that house back. He had to sacrifice and humiliate himself to earn a living, to make this money, so that he could be accepted into some sort of like level of societal achievement.
Yeah.
And then they want to tear him down.
Yeah.
So that he can learn to, really appreciate and live life the way that you should, which is total bullshit, because Julian McMahon's character is a trust fund kid. He started this cult. Who put him through the paces?
Yeah, because he couldn't win the surfing tooth contest.
Yeah.
And Nick Cage was better.
He didn't. He never suffered.
I love that scene paired with what we see at the end, because Nick Cage doesn't take the burger there, but then he takes the burger in the form of a fucking pipe. And drinks. Like, he just is like, I didn't eat the burger, so I had pride, but now I'm just gonna fucking rip drugs with you.
Well, it's such a relief,
party.
at least.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. He still caves, and there's that moment where he's like drowning that kid they called the pit bull or whatever, and then the fucking cult leader is like baptizing him.
Yeah.
And we see in that moment Cage is still kind of resisting the needle and whatever. Once he gets up, he's ready. Like, he walks out to that fire and is like, that's the I'm going to eat the burger moment. And just, this guy owns me now. And there's still some resistance he has. I think that if I had one issue with the movie that keeps it from being a little bit better to me, I think that finale doesn't fully work for me. Because I like the taking the drugs and, like, you know, he's in the cult now, whatever. They do this whole, like, he's got to burn the old man's car, right?
Yeah. It's
kind of one of those moments in the movie you're like, they wouldn't have done this already? Like, what? Okay, it's still playing with this metaphor of him and Cage or similar guys, whatever. He lights the car, because we're sitting in the theater. We're like, yeah, light the fucking car. Like, who cares? Like, go get your mansion and then buy him a fucking Volvo. You know, like, give him a nicer car, to give him a van he can sleep in. Like, yeah, light the car on fire. And his son rolls up, right? And his son's kind of looking at him like, you've been here with these guys? Like, they'd almost beat us up. You've been gone for days. It's Christmas. That's the other thing. It's weirdly a Christmas movie. And he's like, it's Christmas Day. Where have you been? And the cult leader comes over and is like, all right, come on, man. Your dad's been stepping up. Let's go surf. And there's this moment where Cage is watching, like, this guy's now, he stepped up, but the guy's still kind of humiliating him and letting the kid know his dad's still number two. I don't know. It felt kind of weak. And then the old man comes back with the gun, like Chekhov's pistol that we knew was coming back, the shitter pistol.
Yeah.
And he's going to come back and, like, he lines him up and all this. And he's got the gun to the kid's head. And I was like, all right, now we're just doing, like, movie shit. Because you knew they had to surf at the end of the movie.
They had to.
You knew they had to surf. I thought the moment of just letting them walk to the beach together and the weight of the father and son contemplating what decisions he's just made and how that would affect their lives going forward with a little less movie stuff would have been more impactful, because that kid's leaving this day and he's never talking to his dad again. Like, Nick Cage has lost his son at the end of the movie. This kid, who seems like half a puss to begin with, not to be rude, he's a young kid, right? Like, he doesn't know about, like, you know, guns. This guy has a gun to his fucking head because of what his dad's been doing. And you think he's going to be like, hey, you want to go have a Starbucks, Dad? Like, next week? Like, no, he's not. Like, he lost his kid. And I think the movie kind of putting us in this, like, the moviness of it gets in the way of that, like, two characters grappling with what we've watched. Felt a little,
don't you think,
less than for this movie.
Had already lost his kid. It wasn't about him winning over his kid.
Well, no, I think the fact that the kid came to find him shows that even though he's made a lot of mistakes, and I went through this, right? Like, I'm a kid of divorce, right? And I've seen it multiple times where it's, you know, the one dad just is gone forever. And then there is the dad who, like, messed up, but, like, you know, he went through dark, dark times. Like, sad shit. And you're like, God, this is the guy that, like, was in charge of my life. And, like, this is fucking sad and pathetic. And then you watch him rebuild and, like, become a better version of himself, right? And so I think when the kid shows up on Christmas, he's on Christmas out bike riding looking for his dad. I think that's still this, my dad might have fucked up, but it was all not in bad intentions, right? And he's this idyllic guy who wants this house and thinks it'll fix things. He can still love his dad, right? Is misguided as he is, that's gone at the end of the movie. Like, it's gone. I think there's like a realer father-son vibe there. that's now just destroyed by movie ending.
I guess I just didn't read it so much as a father-son story. To me, it was more about a man and his pride and his place in society and the world. And what the movie to me was doing is just taking down the entire permission structure that we've built, because that's the whole philosophy of the cult, is that to be the ultimate man, to be the Ubermensch, you have to walk through the fire and burn it down to nothing. You have to be able to survive without anything, and then you can thrive, right?
I agree with that.
But that turns out what the movie is saying is that's bullshit too, because all that is just suffering and cruelty for no reason.
Yeah.
Because the cult members, they never actually went through the things that Nick Cage had to go through.
It's a permission structure to inflict more pain and suffering.
Exactly. Yeah. It's saying, oh, well, this is why we are able to make the decisions and own the beach.
Yeah.
And you're just sort of doing the same thing on a smaller scale as we do in our everyday society.
Right.
The currency is just different. The currency is who owns access to the beach instead of who has billions of dollars. Right.
Yes, I agree with you at a plot level, right? Like that all makes sense, and I think that is a theme throughout the movie. To me, this cinematic image that I want to address with that ending is because they cut to it as Nick Cage is frantically running. He sees the homeless guy running down with the gun. That to me mirrors the Nick Cage running down the beach flashback we've seen a bunch, where we see at the end he's standing over his dad's body. His dad killed himself on the beach because of whatever, right? Pressures, whatever was going on. We don't learn a lot about that, right? He couldn't take it and he got out. And him running down the beach again, wondering if he'd be able to save his son in the way he saved his dad. That's the moment to me. Like, I want that father-son moment to pay off, because everything Nick Cage goes through is this kind of weird mental math he's done. That if he buys this house with his son, he can rewrite that story and it'll take away that trauma that made him who he is.
True.
Losing his dad. So I wanted a moment where him and his son are confronting a similar moment and having to grapple with the weight of what is the cost of this place. And I think as we get into the like holding people at gunpoint, and at the end, right, he like gives the guy his son's golden tooth back and they scoot out so they can get the surf shot we've all been waiting for. I feel like the moviness of it and watching the cult leader get shot and the old man shoot himself, which does mirror the dad, right? It felt again like it was like, is this a symbolism where like the old man is his dad, right? Who lost his son, whatever the fuck is going on, right? I thought that moment didn't deliver on what, and this movie is so, just the fingerprints of good storytelling are everywhere. That felt like to me a real fucking missed opportunity. And I'm not sitting here saying that I know how that should have been, but I wanted that son and father to have more of a, a moment to sit on the sand where he found his own dad dead. And he's done these horrible things to get this house that the son doesn't fucking care about, right? And he'll never fix that trauma. You never get over things like that. And instead of just them like, just don't look back, paddle into the wave. I was like, that's kind of a whatever, right? Like it wasn't a bad ending.
It was whatever.
I like that better than keeping it, is it or isn't it real?
Oh, wait.
But once it's real, that's the moment I wanted. That's why I was still watching the movie. That's why you bring the son back to me.
Is it not a lesson, though, to the son that, life is, you can't control it as much as you want. You have these goals.
It's the wave. You just got to ride it.
It's the wave. Yeah. Exactly. You just have to ride the wave.
Yeah.
And so they had to break through these bastards to finally get to the ocean.
Right.
And the old man is basically exposing the fallacy of this whole little fiefdom.
Yeah.
Because once you have a gun, you're not so Ubermensch anymore.
Yeah.
Once there's a gun to your head, you're not the Ubermensch anymore, are you?
Yeah.
You're just a scared little pissant. And they all run away.
And they
leave their leader.
There are countless bullets coming for all of us every day that we don't know, right? Whether that's sickness, tornado, whatever the fuck, right? I get all that. I wanted a moment with him and his son, and it felt like all the other blocking was getting in the way. Yeah. It was him and the old man. Yeah. It was him and the cult leader.
Yeah.
Right? And I was like, I wanted that moment. Because in a way, we watched the same thing again. We watched a son lose his dad on that beach. That's what happens at the end of that movie.
Yeah.
And I don't think the movie had time to let us sit with that the way we sat with this whole movie because a gun came out.
Yeah.
And you knew a gun was going to come out the moment that pink bag went up in that shitter. You're like, that's Chekhov's shitter gun. I know what's coming.
Of course.
That was the one thing in this movie that I was like, I'm surprised they didn't pay that image off to me.
Yeah, they had to kind of wrap a whole lot up.
Yeah. And again, that's always the problem. That's what separates like the classic movies and pretty good movies is like, I leave the theater like, holy shit. And it all like meant something, right? And like movies don't have to have like crystal clear, perfect endings. I just wanted to sit with those two. I wanted to sit with them on the board and look up at the mansion, which we've talked about 20 fucking times in the movie.
With the two dead bodies floating.
Yeah, that's the best view to see your new life.
Yeah.
We didn't even get that fucking moment, it felt like. Right?
I think in the credits, though, it was mostly the sounds of the waves. So you could just imagine that that's what they were doing.
Yeah. Because we see them plunge under and then it's like, movie over. Again, mostly great. I just thought that's one of those when you make this kind of a movie, you do have to pay off the fight. Like we know a fight has to happen and someone's not making it off that beach. I feel like there should have been a moment for a movie that did not feel like it was rushing at all to pay that beat off. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
That was like one little thing at the end that kind of left me empty.
I guess I could see that. I don't know that I needed it, more or less because there was so much to digest.
Yeah. And again, anyway. I think it's one of those, maybe watching it back, I'll find something in there that does that for me more.
But I do love movies that have a lot for you to chew on.
Oh, this one does for sure. This is the whole buffet.
But it's not overstuffed either.
No, and it really is walking such an interesting line from being kind of a tight, contained indie movie. And the ideas are all simple, but there's so much room in them, right? Like it's not trying to convolute it with like, here's some weird fucking philosophical concept. Like it's all very like nuts and bolts kind of stuff.
Like when we did Mickey 17, love that movie. There was way too much going on. There was way too much.
And too little statements on anything.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, I get that people are cartoon bad or cartoon good. Like this movie finds that beautiful middle ground. That we're all of that all the time. So I did love it. All right, before we get out of here, Heath, what is the most messed up moment in The Surfer?
There were many messed up moments, just to the point where, just on a visceral level, where you're putting yourself in Cage's shoes, and it's kind of like, oh, they put dog shit on the water fountain, so I can't, he's drinking the rusty, toxic waste water out of the toilet. So much gross stuff like that where he stuffs the dead rat in the guy's mouth. The first thing he eats after days are little robin eggs.
Yeah.
I mean, just the shit that happens
I forgot about that.
to this guy and the amount of gross stuff he has to endure was very messed up. But the most messed up moment to me is that reveal at the end where, hey, mate, you made it. I mean,
I'm going to baptize you and you get to surf with us.
The fact that they put this guy through that, where they denied him his whole life's goal, they gaslighted him throughout the entire movie, and then, hey, it's all good, let's have a party.
And then they just gave him his color-coded towel hoodie and just start doing drugs.
I mean, if I went through that, I would have to play along, and then I would come back with a flamethrower and burn that whole
kill
beach
them,
down.
kill every one of them.
Come on,
that felt like the movie we were gonna get. To me, it's undoubtedly when Nick Cage, he's eating the eggs and shit. But when he has that dead rat in his pocket, or he like goes back to find it because he bangs it against the car and throws it like, ah. And he goes back and he rips that thing open and he's about to eat and he looks over and there's just this old man in sunglasses with his dog. What are you looking at? And he's like about to eat it and he stuffs it back in his pocket. I was like, this guy's gone. Like there's no way there can be more movie. He's not a person anymore. He's out of his fucking mind. And just that cutaway to the guy and his dog.
What's his name in The Fly?
He's Goldblum.
Yeah,
he's just out.
Goldblum.
But it's so fucking fun. And again, the decision to cut away to just some old man. He's like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I live here too. Like, I'm a local. Why do I have to go through this once a month where they're training Newark? Like, this must happen in that parking lot all the time. I thought that was easily the most messed up moment to me.
pretty messed up.
I loved it. That's it for The Surfer. We hope you guys go see this movie in the theater. See this movie. I think you'll love it. One of my favorites of the year, easily.
Yeah.
If you guys want to help us out, we'll be back Wednesday with another episode. Of course, go to Messed Up Movies Podcast Patreon. That's the best way to support the show and help us grow. Lots of good stuff for you there. Go to misfitparade.com so you can keep track of our movie as we continue the process to get that made. Mr. Cream Jeans Hidey Hole. We're on all the socials you're on. We need 5-star ratings and reviews. More importantly, let a friend know, right? We do TikToks, YouTube, shorts, reels, whatever. They all have one now. We have those, man. Send a clip of our show to people who like movies, and we'll take it from there. At a grassroots level, we want to grow this pod, and you guys can help us out with that a ton.